December 2024, coming up on today's Global Intelligence Agency Operations Report. Today is the new moon. It's also considered a black moon, and of course the secret space program operatives have been in full force. Things are heating up with the Trump operatives. The clock is ticking on many promises, operative contracts, and the government is going broke. The operatives themselves are discussing plans to delay the inauguration, and it's possible the upcoming presidential funeral is just the start. And unofficially, Crown Corporation admits they are bankrupt. Governments everywhere are scraping up their last pennies, pesos, rubles, and pounds, hoping for a miracle come Inauguration Day in the U.S. But will anything change? Well, it is the 30th of December, 2024. The next time I talk to you, it's going to be 2025. Let's hope I get it right on the first few reports. I don't know why I do that. I don't know if you do that too. Sometimes I always write the year before for like the first month or something on documents and whatnot. So it takes me a little bit of time to get used to the fact that it's going to be 2025. And I kind of expect a lot of changes in 2025, and it's going to be interesting. So let's talk about what's going on right now, and then we'll talk about what we expect to happen. So today is a new moon. It is also the second new moon of this month, called a black moon. And yeah, so for the last 24 hours, the secret space program has been expecting something momentous to happen. They've been trying to do some resets. They found some artifacts that don't really function anymore, and places like, I think it's called Jalupa Valley in California and Ogunquit, Maine, and a few other locations in the world. But this has been their main focus, trying to do something. Again, I don't really know what they think they're trying to do. Pass. They seem to be in quite a bit of a panic, and there's been a sequence of events that have taken place over the last couple of days that have led me on our side to have a better understanding of some of the things that have gone on. On the other side, it kind of trickles down into the world of governments, politics, SSP, operatives wanting contracts, and all kinds of things that have been taking place the last couple of days. So, without further ado, let's talk about I guess we'll say the why first. So a very long time ago, we've talked about a global martial law declaration. That happened only about 16,000 and a half years ago, which in our time is not really a long time. However, there was another war declaration prior to even the 250,000 year ago Atlantean War, as you call it in our history. This war declaration was declared, I guess you would say, at the time that we moved into the Dark Ages, right about then. So it was many millions of years ago, and a declaration of war on this level happens by covenant, I guess, and you could also call it by planting, for lack of a better term, a ghost flag. So sometimes when the military, U.S. or otherwise, goes to another country, land, the UK did it a lot too over the last few hundred years, where they plant a ghost flag. It's like where they walk into your country, they declare they won, they plant their flag, and then they leave, and all of a sudden, wow, you're the Commonwealth, or wow, you're now a territory of the United States. So that's kind of on a military level what it is done, but I'm going to pull up the whiteboard for a second here and kind of explain to you what it looks like on a universal level, because this does trickle down into why everybody's been ringing the phone off the hook here for the last couple of days. Okay. So we know about Earth. Let's say this is Earth, me and my terrible writing. So this is Earth. And a long time ago, the original attempted takeover of Earth was done with, for lack of a better term, we could call this thing a double-sided obelisk. So it went straight through Earth, came out the other side, and this was not the only one. This then disrupted Earth's energy cycle and allowed for them to use this object that was etherical and going through Earth to then disrupt the gateway of the universe. Now, Earth was at one point the only gateway left to the Netherworld or to the Omegaverse or through the hologram. That was kind of Earth. And it allowed for the creation of a second central point, which was, let's just say, down here in what we call the zero density. We know Earth is in the third density. And then we have 1 and 2, and we have the same thing, on downward into a lower astral or to the anti-source section. And then we also have a netherworld on the other side that has all of the same mimicking and mirroring. Well, the reason why it was moved to a different location was so that both the dark and the light would have some control and a passageway through to all the universes. With Earth being of source exclusively, and you could say it was a source absolute sphere or a source keystone, that was not entirely possible. So by putting this in this place, it then created a disruption in that gateway. And it allowed for, in part, there were many other mechanisms tied to this, but it allowed for, in part, a transfer over to a different location in the Alpha Omegaverse. Now, when this happened, there was a problem with the anchoring of source, anti-source, and neutral source at the time. So they created these machines, which were located in 3 places on Earth. One was in Romania, and one was in California. I'll leave it at that because they're going to go hunt these things. They're not there anymore, so it doesn't really matter. And the other one was in Antarctica. So these were the 3 locations that would anchor source, anti-source, and neutral source. They did this by creating what's called an absolute sphere. That's what I call it. Now, it's an absolute because it contains a little piece of source, anti-source, and neutral source in each one. It also is a piece and a portion of that positive zero, or the place of everything, both in source, in the place of nothing in anti-source, and neutral source. So at the time, these were the only anchors for Earth. To source, anti-source, and neutral source, which it was for a long time. Now, it turns out that the way alleys started mimicking and the netherworld started mimicking, now originally it was done for a positive reason. It was done by source, anti-source, and neutral source to maintain their presence on Earth, now that Earth technically wasn't a keystone for a time. The next reason why they created them, I guess you would say, is to ensure that we, or Source, did not lose Earth. On the flip side of it, it was also used for a negative purpose because those of the netherworld and alleys actually managed to get a hold of some of those keystones, and the keystones in this case that were located within these machines were also recorders. They also held the original DNA blueprint of the universe. Getting a hold of one of these keystones, putting them in a different kind of machine is what allowed alleys to mimic creation and allowed for the netherworld to mimic creation. And this was all done at the same time, you could say, that this large spear or double-sided obelisk was placed in Earth. Now, the double-sided obelisk was done between, I know this is a shocker, Marduk, Enki, and Enlil, everybody agreed, isn't that lovely? And, of course, the Black Magician from over in the Netherworld. Now, just as a matter of fact, the Black Magician over in the Netherworld was a rotating position. It's kind of like Marduk. Marduk literally means Lord of the Seas or Current Seas. The Black Magician also was a title. It was decided that usually one of the 72 Dukes of Hell, so to speak, as you know them, and you can look that up on the internet, would hold from time to time. And I guess it's whomever was the worst. I'm not sure how the picking process happened or if it was something done with anti-source, but that was typically who would hold that position. It would be one of the Dukes of Hell, one of the 72, and then that being would then rule over all the others for a time. I don't know much more than that as far as like how often did they rotate? You know, is there a selection process? Is there an induction process for this? I would say to some degree there probably would have been some oversight there, just as there was over this declaration of war. I would say that the positions on both sides probably also had some kind of a declaration or an oversight committee of some sort other than source, anti-source, and neutral source. But at this time, the only one I am aware of is the Council of Nine. So once this declaration of war happened, which is this giant spear, there's not anything else. There's not a covenant or an agreement initially that would mark this other than the giant so-called ghost flag or stab in the earth took place by agreement between these folks here. Because there was a declaration of war in place, you know, as we lost our moon 18,000 years ago, Marduk brought a different moon, which we now know as a space station that is hanging out in the sky. It doesn't really function anymore like that. It's just kind of a big rock that moves the water around. But this is the reason why we had martial law. You know, we had war after war after war, because there was always that ongoing war that was happening that was far greater than anything the Pentagon could do or global headquarters could do on this planet. And this is in part why we almost saw this invasion. So now it's all becoming very clear. Now, at certain times in the year would be optimal if the balance, you know, in their mind there on the netherworld, their ability to influence this planet waned. If Marduk, Enki, and Enlil, none of which we have anymore, you know, their influences would wane, other than, you know, their consciousness that they transferred into AI systems and whatnot for a time. Once all of that waned, then, you know, now they had the right to come in due to this declaration of war and cause chaos here. Now, the Black Sun was very excited about this, and so were the SSP and the Trump operatives and everybody. You know, they were even talking about there was a touchdown of the Pleiadians. I heard that one. We don't have any anti-Pleiadians anymore, which are the only Pleiadians they know. They know about the Targethians. They know about the Artemis folk, the reptilians, as you would call them. And nobody's here. There's nobody in our peripheral. There's nobody in Earth's atmosphere. There's nobody here. I've even double-checked, and the Enforcer has double-checked. There's nobody hidden in between a plane, a pocket of time. Nobody has come. And they said that this allegedly occurred on the 12/21. I don't know. I think they're lying to everybody so that they can continue their own lie. So let's continue on to what's happening right now. We all know about the waning Allie's AI. We really don't have much of that left in the multiverse anymore. It's not mimicking anymore. Ever since we pulled that, we pulled the keystones and we pulled the machines. So since that took place, we're not seeing anything new from Allie's. There might be a few little things left over from days have gone by, but really not a whole lot of influence on this planet anymore. We're not seeing much of anything since we saw the crazy scientists come out of the Nether world. We did have a couple more pockets of scientists. We found one in Jonestown, Guyana. So that was taken care of recently as well. But as far as war declarations, this is really important to understand. Because it's affecting what's going to happen here in the coming year with governments and militaries and a lot of people. So the SSP thinks they're really, really smart. This secret space program folk. They think they're really, really smart. And these are your Trump operatives as well. They think that they have knowledge that no one else has. They think they have information that no one else has. And it's old. Mostly really, really old. Now, they didn't keep up with the times when they had the chance, meaning they had access to the archivists. They had access to the information in the Hall of Records. They had access to expired agreements. And these people just kind of chose to ignore all of it because they just didn't care for whatever reason. Even the Pentagon, there were many documents, as we've talked about before, that were delivered to the Pentagon at a time when they were still trying to achieve balance. You know, I'm not saying I'm a big fan of archivists anymore, but that's your Targethians, your Pleiadians, or anti-Pleiadians, so to speak. Do they... I don't know. They ignored basically all of the expired agreements. Now, another one that they also happened to ignore was the fact that we don't have the declaration of war, quote unquote, spear. I don't know what else to call it. A giant dual-sided obelisk crystal-looking thing that went straight through Earth and also was in the Kali chakra of the universe and a few other locations. You know, as they declared war against basically source and all of creation. Kind of bold, don't you think? But they did. And this leads to the declaration of global martial law by Marduk. So as long as the war was on, we would have global martial law. Now, global martial law expired a couple years ago. And then we kind of did this little tit for tat with the military for a while, tried to do a redeclaration of war, where basically we declared war against them. And nobody really cared. So we got rid of it. There was also a number of other agreements that expired, which are relative to this. Number one, after Marduk passed away in 2016, I would say the position of ground commander went to me. So here I am. Yep, that's also a title I hold, which means I am the highest ranking military, quote unquote, off-world military, on-world military ranking person on this planet. That used to be Marduk. It is no longer Marduk because Marduk is no longer with us. So it's me. And I have held that position for about 8 years or so now. And these people keep wondering why they're not getting any money for war. Well, I just decided maybe I don't want to do that anymore. Now that the full declaration of war is over, meaning for between their bosses on their side, because I don't really care about and I know this is not an arrogant statement, so please don't take it this way, But the secret space program folks do bad things. They do. Are they capable of doing bad things without bad others behind them? Meh, somewhat. Are they capable of creating world war without anything behind them? No. Are they capable of doing all the lovely things that they promised everybody? No. No, they're not. So, yes, they can start a few things here and there. Yes, they can cause some harm here and there. But without the declaration of war, no one is going to fund their war. So at this point in time, that is gone. That went way out the window. The next agreement that they neglected to pay attention to is global martial law. We don't have that. So in order to get something funded, you have to be ratified in the Hall of Records to do so. And the Hall of Records is also under my control because I'm also guardian. And so therefore they can declare all the wars they want to declare, but no money comes out of the system for war. I've been telling everybody this, but there's a legit reason why that doesn't happen. It's not me just being mean. I just don't see a point in declaring war against those people. I don't really care about trade matching, meaning $1 for their side of the war, $1 for my side of the war. Because remember, in days gone by, in the time of trying to achieve balance, both sides of the war were funded by the same people. I know we think Israel's attacking the Middle East, and we probably also think Russia's attacking Ukraine or vice versa. We probably also think that there are, the U.S. has attacked this country and Yemen's doing this. No, both sides of the war, the Palestinians, for one example, and Israel, in the days gone by, not recently, were both funded by the same people. This was the art of war, and this was how wars were funded. Now, every year, due to the major declaration of war, not some SSP guy or operative or government even, because they're kind of like non-existent in the world of ground command. Meaning, this is not an arrogant statement in any way, it's just in the world of the real declaration of war versus what they're looking at, they don't even enter this realm of war, or do they really understand it? That is very clear when you're watching their operations everywhere. So I don't know if they missed it. I don't know if they even know what that is, but due to this declaration of war, towards the end of the year, usually 2 to 3 days before the end of the year, there would have been war money that would have come out to fund both sides. Now, this hasn't happened in a number of years, but that was part of the war declaration. Now, we have received calls, and I mean a lot of calls, even from people around here locally, Trump operatives, Trump lawyers, Chase Bank, Bank of America, in the last 24 hours, trying to get me to transfer money so they could get their side of the money for the war. Well, I hate to break it to you, sweetheart, Pentagon people and Trump operative people and government people and whoever else tried to call. That is over. That declaration of war is over. There is no more one-for-one settlement. Trying to get me to send money to do it your way so I could get zero money is not what we're doing here. And I'm not at war with you people. You're kind of irrelevant, really, to me. And I know it seems like you should be relevant now, but you're not. The relevance to me was the things from the Netherworld, things from the Omegaverse, things that go bump in the night that you keep trying to bring here. Now, you're just kind of haphazardly doing whatever you're doing over there. And by accident, you might happen to trip over a gateway, and then out comes, something or other that's trying to invade Earth. So I'm not really that concerned, so to speak, and definitely not concerned enough to file a declaration of war. Now, the next thing that I have said before to you, but I'm going to repeat it now because it's relevant, that every year at midnight, 12:01, Eastern Standard Time, the Pentagon declares martial law, and money used to come flooding out for this. Now, that had to do with global martial law, which also had to do with the more relevant war declaration, which also had to do with the fact that we had to fend off an enemy, here on Earth. Not your little book of law, war of law book, I guess you should say, where, you pick 1 through 7, and these are the cookie cutter ways we start wars, right? No. This was a much bigger war with much bigger problems, which was overseen by the Council of Nine for quite some time. Quite a while ago, because they aren't needed in that position anymore, the Council of Nine is now off to do bigger and better things within the multiverse. And most of it has to do with cleaning up and helping to heal affected war-torn areas, which, we aren't quite there yet. But we're there. We're close. So that being said, this would trickle down to why the Pentagon got money. And this would trickle down to why militaries and agencies would get money every year. Well, that didn't happen this year. Because it didn't happen yesterday as they anticipated, and definitely isn't going to happen today, and definitely isn't going to happen tomorrow, and not tomorrow after midnight and the next day or any other day, ending in Y, because there is no war declaration. I am certainly not declaring war against you people. That would be sad. It's like declaring war against, I don't know, people who can't defend themselves. Like, yes, you might get angry at your kids sometime, but you're certainly not going to declare war against them at all. So that being said, this is why no money is coming. And I got calls from operatives even this morning saying, my contract's coming. Trump's going to get it done. Trump's the savior of the world, blah, 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 blah. Nope. Trump never did it. It was always me. And I know they hate that when I say that, but, it's just a fact. So no declaration of war, no war money coming, no money coming to the SSP, therefore no money coming to the Trump group. And the rank and file of people that would get paid in the past, see, normally people of that caliber would not see any money. Maybe the Pentagon would or something like that, but it would take probably till about the 15th of January for that to start really trickling down to operative level, or, the contracts that would go out every year for the wars, the agencies, who is going to fight who. And of course, orders always came with that money too. And that was the question I asked on one of the calls today was, well, if I'm going to send money, then don't I get what I want, whatever that is, and of course the answer was no. Even Langley actually made a phone call to Tom and said, we just want things our way. We want the money, but we want them our way. And to which I replied, do they think that I'm Burger King? Do I look in any way like Burger King where you can have it your way? No, I don't look like Burger King in any way, shape, or form. So they want their old rules back, but I'm sorry, I cannot put that giant thing back into Earth. The declaration of war is now over. No one is recognizing it, and there's nothing I want to do to help you to do this again, because there really is nobody left over there to fight. That's the real war. You little people on Earth and your weirdo SSP people over there are not war worthy. You don't really have the machines, the mechanisms, to fight a real war, and we don't have anybody coming in to fight said war. So I'm not really sure why you would want to do such a thing. And I don't think it would be permitted anyway. And I think that they were pretty well notified that that's not going to happen by probably, let's just say, source itself. And sometimes the energy, as it comes in stronger and stronger, can have some backlash when you try to use it the wrong way. And I think they found that out last night and this morning. Yes, they did. So this trickles down to, what are we seeing in the news? First of all, we are seeing, not quite in the news, Trump operatives scrambling to try to lie to other operatives, letting them know they just need another day and another day and another day, and they're going to buy time, and nothing will happen on the 1st of January either. And so there's going to be some operatives that they are going to be sitting there going round and round and round for the next 4 years. But due to their lack of performance behind the scenes of the Trump operatives, which will become even more apparent before the end of this week, we are probably going to see some delay tactics behind closed doors. Those same operatives are talking about ways to delay the inauguration. Now, why? They have promised Russia money for the war, Ukraine money for the war, China money. They have promised, remember, they're moving into all these political positions in countries with a promise of funding that is going to come through their hands because they're now, quote unquote, in charge in their own mind. Trump's back in office. I don't know why presidents matter. Even other heads of state know that. So they're trying to basically allude to the fact amongst people that are in the know that they are in charge. And I don't know where they got that idea. Maybe they declared themselves in charge. We can all declare ourselves a lot of things. I could declare myself the Easter Bunny as an example, and I could look for funding for candy and Easter eggs for children all over the world. Kind of sounds delusional, doesn't it? Well, so does what they want to do over there too. But yeah, so it's getting a little hot and heavy over there because they keep saying, well, it'll be after the first of the year. Now it's, they're trying to tell everybody it might not happen till the inauguration, that kind of thing. Yeah. So if you are a government around the world and you are waiting for money from the Trump administration, Trump operatives, or any of those people, it's never coming. Nah, not coming at all. And by January 15th, when governments get back to work, because that's typically right around the day that they come back to work, it's going to get really hot. And I find there are no coincidences in life, speaking of really hot. So maybe a few days ago, I think it was about 5 days ago or so, the Q clock turned to 2 weeks. And they said that you would see the quantum financial system and approximately around the 9th of January, 10 o'clock in the morning, Eastern Standard Time is when they think that they're saying we're going to see the QFS. And that's all predicated on them getting this load of money, and they're, of course, going to make their own financial system, and they're so excited. And, no, not happening. But anyway, this is what they think they're going to do. Is there any kind of coincidence that former President Carter passed away when it happened a few months ago? And everybody dies in December, and we know that. I've told you that before. No matter when they die, it doesn't matter. They only die in December. And is there a coincidence that the funeral is on the day of the 9th of January? Same day that they're supposed to have their QFS. And the markets are going to be shut down that day too. They've announced that it's going to be kind of like a holiday, a federal holiday, and markets would be shut down. I don't know if banks are closing or not. I have no idea, which would be also unusual for a former president funeral. But no coincidences in life that they happen to create a distraction for that day. Oh, And there's going to be no QFS because the markets are shut down, so on and so forth on that day. So they can get out of one promise. Now, word on the street is that someone else might die. There might be another presidential funeral or something. They have talked about all kinds of distractions, possibly saying that getting enough of Congress, allegedly Congress, I don't know, operatives behind Congress people to get together and decide that they're going to say that Trump can't be inaugurated because of the Insurrection Act or something he participated in, and, that they themselves created. And they're going to kind of play that for a little while. So they're going to try to stall it out till March. Why March, do you say? Well, March is when the equinox happens, and money used to come on the equinox. And so we might have to wait until then for the inauguration. Well, at this point, based on the data that I have and based on where I'm seeing the planet go in 2025, you may not have a president of the United States for 4 whole years if they delay it that long, because nothing is going to happen for those people. Not now, not ever. So pass. I don't know. Another interesting behind the scenes occurrence that happened is Crown Corporation has declared themselves bankrupt. Why now? Why did they declare themselves bankrupt now? Well, that Commonwealth is a pretty big place in actually the United States until about a year ago. So this is Duck Dynasty again for you. Again, where, they ignore all the expired agreements. And so more than a year ago, Crown Corporation wasn't actually over the United States anymore, but they're still attacking ghosts in the room. For lack of a better term, they decided that they were going to get them to admit they were broke. Word has started trickling down to Commonwealth. I say Commonwealth nations, but also nations that you would say are under the British Crown still. So you would say, I've seen some countries in the Middle East which would be considered under the British Crown Corporation. They are stopping a lot of services of the government. They are on hiring freezes of the government in the Commonwealth areas of the world. There's a lot of national health services. They're not hiring any more doctors or nurses or anything like that. And these couple of locations that I've seen start to trickle already. They are talking about hiring freezes for governments. They're talking about increasing taxes on goods and services which are traded in United States dollars. I will repeat that. They have been told to increase taxes, fees, custom fees on items that are globally traded in United States dollars. This would be your gold, your silver, your oil and LNG or gas, and other commodities that are allegedly by World Trade Organization standards traded in United States dollars. Now, we know that really most of the world's transactions that are substantial on any of these commodities happen off market. About 80% of those commodities are traded off market. The on market prices are only for us little people. The rest of us people in the world that, have to pay market price for things when we go to the pump, to pump petrol in our cars or gas. But we are starting to see some changes and some being made in several governments around the world, some of it happening behind the scenes and some of it happening kind of in the face front, whereby you are seeing some additional fees on these specific commodities. I would expect by the beginning of next year that you might see that get worse if nothing changes. Now, I don't expect nothing to change by then, but I would tell you that there is a reason for this. Come January 15th, allegedly, the Treasury says that they will also officially be bankrupt. When they say the Treasury, they're not just talking about the United States Treasury. They are talking about treasuries worldwide. This is what they're saying. They've managed to keep afloat. Every time they thought they were going to go under, some operative somewhere would develop some scheme, steal some money from the King of Bahrain or the Kuwaitis or somewhere, promising big pipelines in Saudi Arabia. And, they've taken money from the Russian oligarchs over the last couple of years. I mean, the Silent Circle, they've borrowed money from the mafia. There ain't anybody on this planet that they have not borrowed, quote unquote, borrowed money from that isn't dependent on what we think are these type of days ending in Y when money would come for various reasons that no longer exist. So if that is actually the case, the reason for the increased fees in countries that the SSP think that they have a seat in the government, quote unquote, or are the hidden hand behind the government, because they think they're taking over for Crown Corporation, but they really don't know what they're doing. So, that's kind of where we run into a little bit of a problem. So they've had them increase these fees so that they could allegedly claw back more dollars in order to keep the Treasury, not necessarily the U.S. government, but the Treasury afloat, not only in the United States, but around the world. So they feel that they could steal money from people in order to achieve this task, based on commodities and on-market transactions. They must have forgot they sanctioned a lot of the countries that have a lot of this stuff. There's sanctions on Zimbabwe, there's sanctions on Russia, Ukraine, and in lots of other areas of the world, Iran. You've got sanctions everywhere, guys. And you can't, all those are off-market transactions now. So I don't know. Maybe they're just looking to take it only from us. Probably. Figures. This is not the first time, we've seen this alleged increase. There's also talk, which is ridiculousness, about, 100% customs on certain countries and, goods and services coming into the U.S. These are ridiculous policies that make absolutely no economic sense, which tells me that what I have groups of political operatives trying to get involved in economics. I don't understand why they don't have any economic people anywhere in their staff, or maybe they just ignore them too. I'm assuming they're being ignored, because otherwise they wouldn't have their face front mouthpiece saying ridiculous things like this. So, what do I think is going to happen after the first of the year? Well, I think we're going to see some big disappointments for the SSP this week. We will not be having a report or a report on the first. So I'm guessing it's going to be total chaos in their world when there's no money, and I'll probably be busy working anyway. So I will talk to you on Friday more about what I expect there. Do I expect them to come up with another day ending in Y? Probably. Do I expect them to come up with a delay? That's what they're discussing right now. If that changes, it could change between now and Friday, because they know there's no money coming when he gets back into office. I know that they would love for me to do this again. However, you still owe me a few $100 billion, and I'll take stuff. We talked about that before. I will take, you've got lots of government stuff laying around, extra military bases maybe, or something, we could always use. There's all kinds of seized DEA properties. We could definitely, as people, we could hand them out to all of you. I don't really care. I don't need stuff, but there's definitely something they could have done to try to make this right, and they have no intention of doing that. So therefore, I have no intention of funding any of these people. They also have no intention of following any orders and instructions. That was evident through the last 3.5 years I did this. So I don't really see any reason to do anything that doesn't involve the people. meaning the people benefit. And I'm not getting any benefit right now out of any of it. So there will be nothing going in their direction, and I'm still focused on putting things in our direction. I'm, again, most of the stuff I'm seeing now is not things of human blocking. I don't really see the NSA being a problem, although they try. God bless them. They were actually the ones in Algonquin, Maine, recently. So we'll see what happens this week. We'll give you an update. On Friday, I plan to give you a little bit more of an update on what I see blow by blow for 2025, kind of where we're going and where I think that what we can expect for us, the people, for 2025. So on that note, I wish all of you a happy new year. I hope you have some amazing plans for the new year. Above all and everything, remember to breathe, stay grounded, because it's going to be a wild ride as things speed up quite a bit come the first of the year. And hopefully we're out of the woods as far as the difficult parts, and I hope you do get to enjoy some time with family and friends for New Year's, and maybe a little time to chat with Source too. That's something that's going to become easier and easier as well. On that note, I wish you all a happy new year, and I will see you on Friday.